Hey guys, welcome back to the Jason Down podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about if the Pittsburgh Steelers can be contenders next season. And with the acquisition of Russell Wilson and Justin Fields to the quarterback room, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts, my analysis on this move, on these moves, and whether or not Pittsburgh can um, get over that hump of being like right, in, a lot of people say mid. I hate to say mid, but being right there just at the between not being between being bad and between being a top team, right? They sit in that middle ground, that middle tier. They've always had it seems like they always have winning seasons under Tomlin. Even when their team is like just awful, like but they always find ways to win games. So I'm gonna be talking about that, and I think this helps Pittsburgh moving forward. So before we get started on that, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Check us out here on YouTube, and make sure you follow us on all the social accounts. That be Twitter, X, Instagram, and TikTok. We're on there. So just hit our first video with 1,000 views on TikTok the other day. So make sure you guys continue to help us out on there and check us out, and continue to share the account and the page with everybody you know. Hit that subscribe button in the right corner of your screen. You can stay tuned for more content from us as we continue to traverse throughout the 2024 off season, as we're getting into the draft coming up soon and training camp. And before we know it, it'll be time to kick off the 2024 season in September. So I'm excited to see all these new quarterbacks and all these different teams and these new players as well moving around. Still got time for other people to be moving around, people selling the trade market and stuff like that. So we'll talk about all that as well. But yeah, talking about Pittsburgh. So they traded Kenny Pickett, who was the guy they drafted from Pitt. They drafted him in the 2022 draft, and they ended up trading him to the Philadelphia Eagles. So he remains in the state of Pennsylvania. They traded him to the Eagles after his first 2 years didn't look good. Now, granted, the offensive play calling for the Steelers had not been good with Matt Canada. It was very awful to watch them. I mean, the combination of Kenny Pickett and Matt Canada, like it was atrocious football to watch. They couldn't run the ball either until like later on in the year. This year, where they were able to start to run the football better than they were early on in the season, but until then, like how the Steelers were winning games was really based off of their defense. The defense was working to get them those wins that they did have, because it just wasn't offensively, just wasn't there. And and Kenny Pickett was the reason why. And I think is he a starting quarterback in this league? I'm not totally sure. If he can develop better, if he can work on the things that he needs to work on as far as mechanic wise, and seeing the field better, making those reads better, not overthrowing his players, things like that. Just getting those timing things down, just those little nuances. I think he could potentially be one, but not with Pittsburgh. And they, after 2 years, they say, we're not going to keep trying this. We need to bring in somebody who has been proven, and because they believe that they can contend now. The Steelers are in a position where they believe that they can go out there and go have a good season and make the playoffs. And they think that they have the talent in the building to go and do that. And I believe they do. You got talented players all across the board for the Steelers, and you add to that when you bring in Russell Wilson, the veteran Super Bowl champion, veteran quarterback. He's been in the league, for a while, and he's accomplished things at the highest levels in this league. Playing for Seattle, of course, and one of the more accomplished passers, one of the more accomplished deep ball passers we've had in this league. He's a very accomplished deep ball passer. I think what his number, I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but I think his numbers on deep ball throws last year was like 20 touchdowns, like 2 picks or something like that. Very good ratio as far as his throwing the ball more than like 40, 50 yards down the field. Like, he was very accurate on that for the most part for Denver, even in the midst of all the whole Sean Payton stuff. And he still had a good season, 26 touchdowns, 8 picks. I mean, granted, everything that was going on behind the scenes, how we know how the Broncos felt, how Sean Payton felt about him, and for him to go out there and still perform like he did, I mean, it was, I call that impressive for Russell Wilson's case. So they bring in a guy like him on a 1 year deal. It's already been made news that he would be the starter, of course, for Pittsburgh. And I think it's a good move. I think it was a good move to bring in a guy like him to help boost that locker room up, to help everybody buy in, because Mike Tomlin's a guy that, listen, he's like, hey, he has a way that he runs his program, how he runs that team. It's a certain precedent that he has, and the guys that he brings in the building, he brings in there for a reason. Guys like Cam Hayward and Minka Fitzpatrick and veterans that he's gotten over the years. Even guys aren't there anymore. Like Ryan Shazier and players like that. Just guys that come in there and work, and they're leaders, and they set the tone for the team. And he wanted to bring in Russell Wilson to help continue that trend of bringing in those guys into the locker room. And I think that it's going to pay well for them. And they fired Matt Canada, right? So now, because you do that, like now you fired Matt Canada, now you're going to bring in your offensive play calling should be better, and you have a quarterback who can better execute the plays. Execution is a big thing, but see, people don't understand. It's like they think in the NFL, like, or football in general, any sport really, but people don't understand is that they think because if players mess up on plays or things like that, it's because they suck or this and that. Like, no, that's the case some of the time, but a lot of times it's execution. It's lack of execution. Football is one of those sports where execution plays a huge role. Because you can not be the most talented guy on the field, but if you can execute the play, if you can execute the play that's been called and execute it to the best of your ability and to your talent, then chances are that play is going to bode success for you, in your team. So that's how it is. I mean, look at it with, for instance, when teams have these backup quarterbacks, right? They come into the season, or quarterbacks that may not be superstar. They may not be Patrick Mahomes. They may not be Josh Allen. They may not be Joe Burrow, but they can still go in and get the job done because they're executing what's being asked of them to do. And yeah, they're executing what's being asked of them to do. They're going out there, of course, you can say game managing, right? But I think it's a little bit different. I think the game managing term is like really it's contradicting, because it's like, well, you call them being a game manager, but because they're executing what's being told of them, they're running the plays how their coach is calling them to be and how they should be ran, how they've been practicing it in practice. And so I don't see the actual problem with being a game manager, quote unquote. I mean, they're just doing what's being asked of them to the best of their ability, to the highest of their ability. Look at Tom Brady. You can call him a game manager by that logic, right? That's what he's been doing. So, and it's worked for him. He's got 7 rings. Peyton Manning. Guys like that. I mean, Aaron Rodgers. Even though he can get off schedule sometimes, but and still make it like a crazy 50-yard Hail Mary pass. But the point of the matter is that term is just so, like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. Like, people call Brock Purdy a game manager. I'm like, dude, you're an idiot. You don't know football, because he is executing the playbook how he's been coached to do it, and to the best of his ability. So if he's not making these crazy no look passes or these these Patrick Mahomes like plays or Josh Allen like plays, whatever, then he's a game manager like that. So that makes no sense. But I digress. My point is, you bring in a guy who can execute the playbook how it's supposed to be done. Kenny Pickett wasn't doing that. So great move on them bringing in Russell Wilson. And then they go and trade for Justin Fields, right? Now, Fields had not been garnering much interest. Well, he was apparently from a few other teams, but his camp only wanted to go to the Steelers. So the Bears did right by him, and they honored that request and sent him to Pittsburgh. Now for, I believe it was, make sure I have, so it was for a future 6th-round draft pick, which could potentially become a 4th-round pick. So the Bears just stockpiling up on draft picks. I mean, of course, they got the first pick in this year's draft, which is most likely going to be Caleb Williams out of USC. and all that kind of stuff. And like I said, I'm not gonna go too much into Chicago. If you want to hear my thoughts on them, you can check out some of the videos I've done there in the there in my video section on YouTube. But I do believe that this is a good move for Justin Fields as well. Personally, he gets to go to it's a fresh start, and he gets to go and learn behind an accomplished veteran like Russell Wilson and learn these nuances of the game that he may not be getting in Chicago because they didn't surround him with the right coaching and the right other players, quarterbacks to learn from or anything like that. Like you gotta remember, he pretty much was thrown into the fire in Chicago. Um, and if you're going to do that, it's like, okay, if you're going to throw a rookie quarterback into the fire like that, then you should at least surround him with some help and some supportive pieces to help him better traverse through his young career. And they didn't do that in Chicago. It was just atrocious how that went down. But ultimately, goes to Pittsburgh, and now he's going to get a chance to learn behind Russell Wilson for a year. Possibly, he could even play some. Who knows? I mean, they might even have some different packages for Fields to come in on some certain plays or however they like to do it. But I think it'll be smart for him to sit and learn, and then eventually take over that. And he could be the potential new face of the franchise for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it'll be awesome to see that for Justin Fields. He's such a great guy and great person and a talented football player. I mean, he in 3 seasons with Chicago, he threw for 6,674 yards, rushed for 2,220 yards, and accounted for more than 54 total touchdowns. So, and that's with everything going on. Like, we all know how the dumpster fire that the Chicago Bears franchise is. So, to me, that's decent. Everybody says he's just not a good quarterback. Well, okay, but he wasn't, at the end of the day, you have to acknowledge the fact that, great players have to have great help too. They got to have supportive pieces. They have to have receivers. They got to have good coaching staff, good quarterbacks coaches, offensive assistants, good play callers, right? Things like that, because coaches, players do make the coaches, but a lot of times, but also the coaches can make the players too, as far as, helping them develop and giving them the right information, and doing those things like that, and if you're a player and you don't have those type of coaches in the building with you, then chances are you're not going to be that successful of a player unless you're just super talented out the gate, but not everybody's like that. So I do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers, can be contenders this year. I think they can go and make the playoffs. I think that they have a good squad. They just need a few more offensive pieces. And I think they need to upgrade the offensive line just a little bit more. I believe that because Deontay Johnson's no longer there, so you need to get a guy. You can get some more receivers, possibly snag one or two in the draft. So heck, Tyler Boyd still out there on the out there. He's still out there. He hasn't been signed yet, I don't believe. So I do believe that they can make. I believe that this team can be contenders. I believe that they can make it in. I think like I said, I think they have the talent to do it. They just need to add a few more pieces. But this was a long needed move, and for Pittsburgh and for Justin Fields, it's very good for his career. And now he gets to, after 3 years, now he can have a better chance to succeed. I believe now in this franchise with a proven head coach in Mike Tomlin, proven staff, and ownership and management that's going to do what they can to help their quarterback. So those are my thoughts really on the whole deal with the Steelers, and that's what I think. So make sure you guys stay tuned for our next episode of Jay Smith Now. Thank you for listening, watching, however you're doing it. Hope you have a great day. Make sure you hit that subscribe button in the right corner of your screen. And we'll see you next time on the podcast, guys. Thank you.